So thank you for being here, and thank you for inviting me out. I remember when I was about a junior, I think, in high school, there was this lawyer that came to our class. He had a suit on, a tie on, briefcase, and he talked about the law. And I thought, I like the way that guy looks. I'd like to reach a point in my life where I could put on a suit and where I could have a briefcase and where I could be a lawyer. So that one little talk back when I was a junior made me start thinking about what I want to do. And it's not always so easy trying to figure that out. And you'll be trying to figure that out over these next few years, what you want to do when you get out of high school. Not everything goes so well. I was on the route to doing what I thought I wanted to do. I was in my sophomore year at the University of Texas. I had just completed the first semester, signing up for the spring semester, picked my classes. And late at night, there was a tapping on my door. I thought, what could this be this late at night? And I thought it might be Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, bringing me some bad news. And it certainly was. My cousin came to the door and said, "Your mom and dad are down in the car. He has lost his job in Brownsville. They're in need of you to come home." I dropped out of University of Texas, got in the car, drove down to Brownsville, Texas, loaded up everything we had in two Bobtail 1949 trucks. My brother drove one, I drove the other. On the way back to San Antonio, where we grew up, the chain broke and we had to fix it. My brother pulled me in. We arrived at 5 Points in San Antonio, roughly where Blanco and Fredericksburg come together near downtown, and the chain broke again. So we were back in San Antonio in a dramatic fashion, broke as we could be and not sure what we were going to do. So my brother and I started hauling roofing and sheetrock and lumber to various firms here in San Antonio. And not in school anymore. And I was going to ask this girl to marry me. And her brother said to me, very leery about it, said, "Do you plan to drive a truck for the rest of your life?" And I said, "Well, I hope not." And it really was a point for me to start thinking, how could I get back on track? And I needed to listen to the inner voices, and you have them. And you also need to listen to your soul, where your spirituality comes from. And those inner voices come from a period of time, a time when Mom said education is the most important thing, and Dad said there's nothing more important to work as hard as you can and be willing to do whatever you ask someone else to do. Started selling seconds and roofing off the southwest corner, Southwest Military Drive. Built it up. Eventually opened a little store on Roosevelt Avenue, an abandoned filling station, starting to sell other products as we went along. And then I was able to get back in college at St. Mary's University. But that period of time, what you might consider, or what I did consider then, the worst of times, can be the best of times. I learned how to work with my hands, and that's very important as much as it is using your brain. So I did go to St. Mary's University. I ended up in law school. I took a little while to settle down when I was in college. Usually guys have a little trouble maturing more than girls do. and I worked hard. I was working 80 hours a week in the business and in law school, working, became president of the class, graduated from law school in 1966, and continued to work in our business. But I knew that I wanted to run for public office. And sometimes you're inspired by tragedy. And the inspiration came to me from John F. Kennedy, who was President of the United States, I believe the youngest president to be elected, and he was assassinated. That was 1963. And that was the hope of our generation. And so it inspired a lot of young people like myself at that time to run for public office. Same time, we continued to build our business, and I know some of you are thinking about that. We sacrificed everything to be able to do that. And over a period of time, we built it up into 9 building material stores across South Texas, starting with selling roofing on the street corners of Southwest Military Drive. But it was hard work and dedication to doing it. My 2 brothers, myself, my dad, all of us working. My mother working as a waitress at the Gunner Hotel. But we built it up and eventually sold it in 1979, and then started another business called Sun Harvest, which is a natural foods grocery store. But dating back to 1969, I'm 29 years old, decided to run for the legislature, won that race for the legislature, walked onto the floor of the Texas House of Representatives in January 1971, the beginning of a tumultuous political career, taking business along at the same time. Won the race for state representative, introduced a resolution to call a constitutional convention to rewrite the state constitution with the House and the Senate sitting as the body. Voters approved it. Won a race for the Senate, became vice chairman of Finance Committee, the youngest senator in the state of Texas. Got a lot of the funding for UTSA and Health Science Center while I was there. Went into the convention, nominated Price Daniels as Speaker of the House. As president of the convention, we had to have a 2/3 vote. I chaired the major committee. We failed. We got 116 votes, I think, to 63, 3 votes short. Next legislature picked it up and submitted to the voters, and we lost every one of them. I ran for Congress, lost for Congress. I was out. You could call that a tragedy, maybe, in and out at a very young age. And I didn't serve in office for another 13 years. Then won the race for council, won the race for mayor, then became a county judge in 2001, which is the chief executive officer of Bexar County, chairing the commissioners' court, 4 of which run in districts, and then proposing a lot of major projects that came through. Served in that office for 22 years. So then we sold our Sun Harvest stores. We built that up to 10 stores. So I came out of office a little over a year ago, choosing not to run for re-election, won 5 times. And now I lecture at UTSA and St. Mary's University. And I like to spend my time with students, hopefully inspiring them to do the best they can with their life, regardless of what they choose. It doesn't necessarily have to be a 4-year degree out of college. It could be an associate degree. It could be picking up some major efforts with respect to some of the job training programs. But whatever you do, I think you need to do it to the best of your ability, and obviously doing it to the best of your ability while you're here in high school, and I know you're doing that or you would not be part of this cash school deal. So the book, I've written 9 of them, 9 books. I just like to write. Get up in the mornings, write early, write it in the evenings, write over the weekends. And after all that time of going back really 63 years, business and politics, I got to thinking, what are the leadership qualities and what are some of the power principles that you need to be able to make things happen? And it's to make things happen. It's not just to talk. Regardless of where you are and what you will be doing, working for a nonprofit or heading up a corporation or heading up a department or whatever it would be, making things happen to make a difference in the life of humanity. And so I wrote them down. It just happened to turn out to be 95. And the 95 number turns out to be pretty significant. I didn't think of it at the time, but Martin Luther in Wittenberg, Germany in 1518, I think it was, nailed on the door of the Wittenberg church 95 theses of his complaints against the Catholic Church at that time. Just happened to be tied to that. So there's 95 of them, and they cover a broad spectrum. Not just me, but what another mayor may have done, another county judge may have done, either implemented that policy wrong, in my view, or right. I criticize a lot of the other mayors and some of the county judges, but I also criticize myself for failures. So it's a book that's fairly easy to read. It's 95 of them. You just flip to the one you want to read, and it's a short vignette, no more than a couple of pages or so of each one of them that shows you how it is used. And it's small things as well as large things. And let me just touch a few of the overall arching things. I think if you're going to try to be a leader and you want to have some impact on community, you're going to have to establish an honesty and leadership of persuasion also to make things happen. Running local government's not easy from either the county judge's perspective or the mayor's perspective, so you have to get a broad consensus. There's a lot of different organizations out there that you have to pull together, that you have to be able to have them become a part of your agenda and what you want to do. And then you got to act first, create tension, and get things done. And so that takes a lot of effort and takes a lot of bringing together people to do that and to make it happen. And I think I support candidates today, but there's one criteria I look to first. What is that? Character. Are they honest? Are they hardworking? Then I'll look at whatever issue they're going to do. But if they don't meet the character test, I don't support them. We see that happening in the system today where many people of questionable character and even lying and not being truthful get elected today. But think about that and think about becoming involved in the system. Civic engagement, of being involved in helping different candidates and helping different nonprofits as they go along. But you got to establish honesty and truthfulness. And in a public official, you do that through a covenant with the voters. Always telling them the truth and not lying. And that's not so easy today. There was a quote by Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes going all the way back to 1919. The best test of truth is the power of thought to get accepted. You got to get it accepted. It's not easy today, I'm sure all of you tune into social media somewhere. Lies travel 6 times faster over social media than truth does, and it reaches a lot more people. And the more you lie and the more you say that lie, the more you think you get people to believe it. And that's become a problem for all of us in terms of trying to get the truth across. And it can get real nasty sometime. During the time of COVID, I have a few books in the car about that if somebody wants them. During the time of COVID, lies spread all over and resulted in the death of many people unnecessarily. So to counteract that, the mayor and I had 319 nightly conferences where we would talk to the people directly, and we'd be hooked into all of the media streams, and where we would have journalists there to ask us questions. And we established that truth by having 400 conferences with health officials that were experts in the field, 600 daily situation reports. How many people died that day? How many people are in the hospital? How many people were on ventilators? How many people were in intensive care? How many people got their shots today? And so we could tell the peaks and the valleys of what happened in COVID and to recommend to people. I think doing that, we reached tens of thousands of people, and the vast majority listened, but not all did, because they were listening to the conspiracy theories on social media. After we had the vaccines, and people that got in the hospital after we had the vaccines, those that did not take it, 99% of those that died were ones that didn't take it, and they listened to the social media that called the vaccines a bioweapon. So it's a constant battle to get across the truth, and it takes civic engagement by reasonable people to get involved in the community and to make that happen. Now, you got 2 kinds of intelligence. You got an IQ, but you also have emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence, in most cases, are more important than what your IQ is. And that emotional intelligence allows you to understand your own emotions and to emotions of others. And any sort of opportunity to push a project and to get it done, you have to invoke emotion, whether it's fear or whether it's positive or whatever, but people respond to emotions. So remember that when you're thinking about yourself, IQ, but also your emotional intelligence to be able to understand what other people are thinking and react to. As a leader, again, in whatever you do, you have to be willing to disrupt and innovate. I made a lot of people mad when we started Bibliotech, an all-digital public library, the first in the nation. We opened our first one in 2013. It upset everybody that was in the public library system. We had a hard time being able to find a librarian that would work for us because they were used to the traditional way of doing things, just stacks of paper, stacks of information. And so it caused a lot of controversy. They tried to defeat me in the election, stating that he would close the bibliothèques and not open any more of them. Well, elections do count, and I beat him. And we've opened up many other libraries since then. One of them we opened is right on the Cass School downtown at the Fox Tech campus that we built specifically for a school. We have over 1 million people now that come to our website to check out books or come to our locations. We're at 58 schools, so it's been a great success. And today, where libraries only had about 16% of their collection digital, now today they have about 60. So it's had an impact in disseminating information, getting on the other side of the digital divide, helping people that were not connected to the internet, helping them to understand technology, how to assess information, and then having all the material available for them. I think we have something like 500,000 digital books today. And if you're going to lead, you have to get people's attention, hopefully in a positive way. Mayor Castro did that when he did a speech before the Democratic convention, a rousing speech that was one of the best speeches I ever heard. He was mayor at the time, and he used that attention to pass a pre-K program for young people in the city, and he used that as a way to establish the dedicated downtown and to drive housing first downtown by putting up a fund to help give incentives for them to build in the downtown. But he got that attention, and he did it. Mayor Cisneros, who went on to become a member of the cabinet, dominated the political life in the 1980s with his good look, his charming. He was the cat's meow. All the women loved him. And he was able to get a lot of things done, build a downtown library, to do streets and drainage, to pay attention to the inner city. So you have to be able to get people's attention to be able to do that. You also, when you're in a leadership position, you're going to get some people mad at you because you're going to make a decision. You can't make everybody happy regardless of what you do. There's always going to be people unhappy with you. And some of them can get pretty nasty. The thing you got to do is remain cool. Don't let your temper get out, because if you drag yourself down to argue with the guy that doesn't know what he's talking about and all he wants to do is cause trouble, he's going to beat you because he's drug you down to his level. I like to use humor. People get mad at me. I was walking out of the commissioner's court after we'd had a big debate on toll roads, and this big cowboy guy was following me as I was walking down the sidewalk by the courthouse, and I turned around and I said, why don't you just leave me alone and just get out of the way? He looked at me and said, give me your best shot. Now, he was twice my size and half my age. And I smiled at him and laughed, and I said, I'll give you my best shot. Deputy, haul him off. So they took him away from me. I had someone call the office and say, who appointed you king? And I said, well, it's just a hereditary thing, nothing I could do about it. I had someone else call and say, well, you know, you're a moron, and now you're a loser. And I said, well, I resent being called a loser. Moron's okay. So you try to use a little humor to diffuse that anger that somebody may be coming out towards you. So I hope that that some of you will get this book. We have a few of them. I would think it's probably better for the seniors that are going to be going out. And you may want to flip through it and read some of the things that you might find that would be helpful. The most important thing, regardless of what choice you may make with your life and what you may go into, I hope at the same time you will have a civic engagement, that you will care. You will not only care, but you will try to do something about it to make our community better, to help humanity be a step forward than a step backwards. We have problems today. Every generation has problems, but you're going to have a big one in terms of trying to get some civil discourse back in our political system, and to also protect our right to vote, to protect our democracy, to fight for the things that are fundamental to all of us, from our Declaration of Independence to the Constitution. It takes people like you, young people like you, that are willing to stand up, say what you believe, work with candidates or work with different organizations to get that across, that we are first and foremost Americans, not Democrats and Republicans. We shouldn't be in clans and tribes. We should work for bipartisanship. We should try to look for common ground. We should work together. And while we may have some different opinion on some of them, we look for that common ground. I hope you will be a part of that, and you will engage in civic discourse, and you will be a positive force in our city, our state, and our country. Thank you very much for inviting me.